everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 123 CMMC. My name is Dana Mantilia. I will be your host, and our guest today is Greg Edwards. Hello, Greg. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me today, Dana.
Thanks for being here. So why don't you take a minute and just tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, so I've been in the technology field for more than 20 years now. Started a network consulting company that I still own today back in 1998, and really got into and have started a cybersecurity company starting back in 2016.
All right, so you've been around a bit.
I have. Too long.
Yeah. Well, at the beginning, the fun has just begun when it comes to cybersecurity. So,
Right.
unfortunately, so today we're going to talk about something that is a big hot buzzword that some people may understand, some people may not understand: ransomware. So, our first question is, what is ransomware, and why is it such a problem?
Well, so ransomware fundamentally is encryption, and it locks the files that are on an individual computer or on in a whole network of computers, and then the users can't access them. And to get access back to them, they have to pay for the passcode and pay the ransom to then get access back to them. And the reason it's become such a problem really goes back to cryptocurrency being available. And not that cryptocurrency is inherently bad, but it allows these attackers to take payments completely anonymously. And if you look at the rise of malware and of ransomware specifically, if you look back to 2012 and the number of attacks have just drastically increased because that's when Bitcoin became available, and then the thousands of other cryptocurrencies that are available now.
Hmm. And it seems like it's almost like a business where they have like help desks that these guys can call in, and who's going to negotiate and all that kind of
It
stuff.
it absolutely is a business for these ransomware gangs.
Yeah, so that doesn't help us either. Okay, so what is it like for a company that's hit by ransomware? How do they even know that they've been hit?
Yeah, so usually the way that they figure out that they've been hit is that a user goes to open files or open a database that they normally use and they can't access it. And they may get a pop-up message that says you've been hit by Ryuk ransomware or whatever the specific variant of the ransomware is, and then instructions on how to pay in Bitcoin or other cryptocurrency. And so it's it's devastating when it hits a company. And I've talked to hundreds of companies that have been hit.
Mm.
And imagine going to your office, and whether it's an office of 3 people or 3,000 people, and you can't access anything. You can't open any files. Essentially your computer system is up and running, but you can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's it's like the feeling I would say is like if someone broke into your house and didn't steal everything, but just made it so you knew that they were there and they
Mm-hmm.
had touched everything, and and then caused you ongoing problems, and just like that creepy feeling that
Mm-hmm.
would go along with that, and your business is down.
Mm-hmm. So I can't even imagine that happening. So now, when that does happen, I have heard this, that if they say, okay, you have to pay X number of dollars in crypto, that you can't just like, okay, here we go, send the money. Like, you have to go set up a crypto account. There's like some steps that you need to even take before you could even pay. So there's more time that is being wasted.
Yeah, so there's a whole industry of companies that all they do is help other companies navigate through this
Mm-hmm.
and pay those ransom, because most people don't know how to set up
Right.
a Bitcoin wallet and how to make that happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, that's good to know that there's these companies out there which by necessity have had to develop to help people learn how to pay these ransoms. Not that we want to pay the ransom, but
Exactly.
yeah. All right. So our next one. Are there any recent ransomware events you were following?
Yeah, so actually the group behind TrickBot and Ryuk, which are two major variants of ransomware, they basically had their internal servers and their internal chat hacked. So this is kind of the opposite of a ransomware event. This is hackers hacking into the ransomware gangs, and so that's probably the most interesting thing that I'm following right now. And you had mentioned earlier that these organizations act like companies, and so this group behind TrickBot, and then the Ryuk ransomware. It's an organization of 400, and the as you can imagine, just the communications back and forth between them, I mean, very much like you would see in a normal corporate environment. But one of the things during the middle of the pandemic, they had access to and were about to run ransomware on 400 hospitals across the world. And the chat, you think of your normal corporate communication. Well, they're saying things like, imagine the panic that we're going to instill. And actually the FBI, US FBI, found out that this was about to happen and warned all of these hospitals, and they were able to stop it from happening.
Wow.
But they have no morals, and attacking hospitals during the middle of a pandemic, to them, they don't care. And just the reading through their chats and reading through their inner workings, very much like, there's a management layer and there's a CEO, and just like you would see in a normal company.
And it's just hard for us to wrap our head around someone doing something like that, taking down a hospital in the middle of a pandemic. Like, we can't even fathom that somebody would think that way. But unfortunately, like you're saying, there are people out there that do think that way, and they don't have a problem with that. So it's
Right. Well, when you think that, so to add to, so this group is based in Russia, and there's no, I mean, even before the Ukraine war and what's going on now, there were certainly issues, and it was not illegal for a Russian entity. So they could set up just like a corporation in Russia, and is completely not illegal for them to be ransomware perpetrators, as long as they didn't attack Russian companies. So it's completely legal.
yeah, that's terrible. That's terrible. Okay. So how long?
Didn't mean to bring you down today.
Such an uplifting topic. So how long do you expect that ransomware is going to be the predominant cyber threat? Is this going away anytime soon, or is it just going to get worse?
So I think we're just now getting to the peak of the ransomware purveyors' expertise. So it's really been 10 years now since ransomware has been a thing, and they're just now perfecting their craft. And so I think we're just seeing the peak of what's going to happen, and whether it plateaus off or maybe continues to rise some, I hope we're at least at the peak and plateau off. And so I would say, at least for another 5 to 7 years, if not longer. I mean, it's not going away. It's just a matter of how prevalent is it going to be. And so, so this TrickBot group, they made $200 million in 2021. In 2022 so far, they've taken in a little over 14 million. So
crazy. They're just crazy numbers, right?
Yeah, it's insane. Wow. I mean, you can see why. Yeah, I mean, a 400 employee organization making $200 million, it's not going away anytime soon because of the money.
Wow. And, I think that cybersecurity is just starting to become into some people's thought process, as sad as that is. I still think there's a lot of private sector businesses out there that really don't pay a lot of attention because they don't think they're a target. So I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of companies may possibly go out of business. And then the ones that are remaining are going to say, we better wake up. We gotta do something right here, because we don't want to go down like, XYZ company did. So that's good for people in the cybersecurity business, because it's going to be busier over the next few years.
Yeah, unfortunately, but that's what it's going to take, is companies taking cybersecurity seriously first, and then understanding what they need to do to shore up their systems.
Yeah, and making sure that everybody needs to understand this isn't like a check the box or just a technical thing, that the humans that are within the organization play a big part in this. And until we really realize that, and everybody really says, okay, we're all part of this, and they start focusing on that instead of just, oh, we'll just put another firewall in. Like, they don't understand that it's a lot easier to trick an employee than it is to hack into a computer system. So
yep, absolutely.
Same. Okay, next question. what should companies do to protect themselves?
Yeah, so exactly what we were just talking about. So really what it comes down to, for a company to be able to protect themselves, they have to have layered defense and depth cybersecurity. And that sounds overwhelming, especially to a smaller business, but find a professional that really understands what's needed from a cybersecurity standpoint, train your employees, and put the right tools in place to be able to protect yourself. The very first thing is having a great patch management policy. So making sure that all of the devices on your network are completely up to date with all of the security patches. That will stop more events than even antivirus. So there's lots of things that need to be done, but from the CEO and board level, they need to understand their risk and allocate the right budget to be able to take care of the cybersecurity risk and hole that most companies have today.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Because like I said, it's not going away anytime soon. So time to get proactive here. And one thing I wanted to mention too is that we need to make sure that a lot of companies, they just assume that their IT company is taking care of their cybersecurity. And I just think that that gets lumped together a lot. Just, oh, well, the IT company is going to, take care of it. And you really need to check on what your IT company is doing. And if they're not doing cybersecurity stuff, which they may not be, you need to make sure you have either another company that they work with or find somebody else that does both.
Right. Yeah. And it's difficult for CEOs and managers within companies that are because what questions do you ask? We need to have a whole episode just on what questions to ask.
That's a good idea.
But definitely asking the questions of, what are the layers of security that are being put into place? How is it being monitored? Is there a security operations center that's watching over it? Those are all tools and possibilities that the smallest of companies can afford today with the right implementation and the right company behind it.
Well, I agree with you. I think we should definitely do another one on questions, like list of questions that people should be asking, because it's very technical. Nobody wants to sound like an idiot, right? So the CEO of the company isn't going to be like, well, I don't really know what to ask you, but so if we gave a list or we come up with something, that's a great idea.
Yep.
But for now, do we have anything else you want to throw out there about ransomware?
Just that it is a major threat that companies do need to take seriously, and find out what your risk is and ask the right questions.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and your expertise. I really appreciate it. This is a great topic that we covered, and hopefully we help some people understand this a little bit better.
Thanks for having me today.
All right. Thanks everybody for watching. Take care. We'll see you soon.
Yeah.